We are the Bootu Boys. We are back in Bluffington. I am Brian. That's a lot of B's. Brian Vaughn, that is.
People ever call you Bluffington Brian?
All the time. Van Lee's here.
I'm a dog. You're a dog. Everybody do the dog. Bet you're gonna do the dog all day long. Doberman Pinscher, Beagle, Pekingese. Corgi Collie Bulldog, Great Pyrenees. Chase a car, there you are, sleeping around the clock. Waiting for the cable man to chase around the block.
You heard Spencer
I'm
Hendricks
not done.
earlier.
I'm not done. There.
You heard Spencer Hendricks earlier. He's here too.
You gonna do the same thing?
I'm still trying to figure out what that was. Is that the words in the song?
Let's
or
do the
something?
dog.
Yeah.
The song. It's a rap that happens in Doug.
Okay.
Van, would you like to explain the song itself and the artist?
It's a rap about dogs.
Yeah, Pork
Like
Chop
Pork
does
Chop,
it.
yeah.
He's-
I'm a dog, you're a
Pork Chop
dog.
does it,
Everybody
okay.
do the dog.
Yeah, we should be
That.
clear that the dog does the rapping.
Right.
Also.
Well, what is pork chop?
Dog.
No, I mean, what kind of dog?
Oh, what? Yeah,
Gray.
that is a great question. He's
Is he
sort of
one
an-
of those?
He's sort of an
don't think
all-purpose
he's one of
looking
those.
dog.
Is just a mutt?
Yeah.
He has kind of a schnauzer without all the fur
Okay, I buy that.
You know.
Because he also has the cropped ears.
and the long snout. We're gonna have to get in touch with Pork Chop to find out the answer to this question.
Well, that was a pretty good rap, I think.
An excellent execution from Van, just like Bret Hart would do. I just realized I said excellent execution. Wasn't that a...
Yeah, the excellence of execution.
yeah.
And then I took off my purple sunglasses and gave them to someone in the crowd before I started podcasting. You know,
Yeah, and look at that happy fan
Yeah.
that's watching this podcast from the stands.
I'm very purple.
I'm surprised it hasn't come up until now that we actually have a studio audience that watches the podcast.
109 episodes, and we're just
Yeah.
now learning.
You can't hear them because they're behind plexiglass. We've actually negated the reason you'd want to have one, which would be the laughter.
And that's actually the reason why we made the podcast. We had the studio audience, and we were like, what do we do with this? And it was like, I
Right.
guess we'll have to make a show.
Well, we didn't want to do a sitcom.
No,
We
in
only have the one camera.
our first idea was like a gladiator type deal where we all fight to the death and they all watch, and then we realized we could all not do that and just live.
Correct.
This has been the right call.
Although I do still really want to say, are you not entertained?
Yeah, oh, you can do that. Do it right now.
Are you not entertained?
And the person listening right now in their earbuds or at home or on their speakers, or whatever, they had to seriously ask themselves that question, and they are entertained.
And then they had a Doug-like
Like imagination
hallucination.
scenario.
Yeah. What do you call that?
Daydream,
I guess daydream
is
will do.
That's like the best all-purpose term
Mhm.
for it, I think. But yeah, Doug's always doing that. We're covering Doug again, the Nickelodeon children's show that we all love, I guess.
The one that was almost called Brian.
What if? One of the great what ifs of my life, weirdly. Maybe I would dress different. Maybe I'd wear the sweater vest thing and stuff.
Would you have liked it more when you were a kid if he was named Brian?
No, actually.
Yeah.
It's a very good
I
thing that
could
his
see
name
that
was
being
Doug.
bad.
I was already aggravated for... I don't know why. If anyone called me Bry, I was very aggravated by it.
You're like, I should have been named Barry.
No, I was good with the Brian decision there. I was almost named Barry. My parents had a weird idea about what a name should be.
Barry being a show that it did get that name. It didn't
Yeah,
get,
that's
it didn't
true.
get changed to something else in that case. It just is Barry.
Yeah, that's true. There would have later in my life been a show with my name if I'd been named Barry. A very good show, but
I actually like both of those shows, come to think of it. Doug and Barry.
yeah, but you don't want to share characteristics with Barry. This week's Doug episode will be discussing Season 4, Episode 4, Doug's Halloween Adventure. And we mentioned this last time around, but it is one plot for the whole episode, which does not happen hardly at all throughout the Doug series, at least the Nick series. And in this one, Doug and Skeeter hear about a new ride at Funky Town, which is, of course, Bluffington's amusement park, called the Threshold of Death. But they're in for more than a thrill ride because Roger's there. Roger, again, instigator. He just is there to instigate.
And he clearly doesn't want to go home, as we've mentioned, has had a tough home life. So
Yeah.
he's always out and in the way.
In the way is another good way to describe Roger. And he's real big. He's bigger than the other kids. So that makes him like an impassable boulder
With bacon hair.
with bacon hair.
And a leather jacket and heels.
Yeah.
What an interesting guy. When you describe him, like, quality for quality here. It's kind of like, I think Roger's a pretty interesting character.
Sure.
Roger Klotz. Klotz, by the way, was the last name of the school bully that Jim Jenkins had, the show's creator.
Yeah, that
So
makes sense.
he went ahead and stuck with it because that does sound like a bully name.
Would you guys greenlight or turn down a spinoff suggestion about Roger?
Why not? Instead of a reboot, let's do that.
Yeah,
let's
I think
do
that's
that.
a good idea.
How about Skeeter?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Skeeter has to be there for sure.
Patty Mayonnaise?
No, fuck that.
I was mostly just trying to set up Van. I personally would like a Patty Mayonnaise spinoff show.
Yeah, me too. But Van has this anti-Patty sentiment. I like that this is becoming a thing now.
It's great. I'm really enjoying it. And I didn't know. I thought maybe she really was awful and I had just misjudged her because I was like, Patty's so cool. And it's like, oh, I don't think so.
She's wonderful.
We're 3 years into the Doug future, like the franchise, but everybody's the same age. It's middle school time.
And right away, though, you can see that the show has a budget now. Things are colored in a little more and drawn a little differently. It still has that same aesthetic,
Definitely.
but it's very different.
I wasn't sure if it was just the quality of the episode or whatever, but this episode looked a lot cleaner.
Yeah, this is the same art style, but like bulked up a little bit. It still looks really good. It still has its intent behind it. The intro's the same, where that line assaults the entire cast of cartoon characters and makes them fall in a hole. All that stuff.
Shape of a heart at one point.
A little bit of that. I kind of feel like I'm supposed to be on drugs when I watch it. There's something about it where I'm just kind of...
It doesn't hurt.
Do you remember the visual wave files in those old, like the original audio players for songs?
For
like
sure.
Windows Media screensaver.
Where you could see the song change and pulse and the colors of the lights or whatever. It kind of makes me feel that way when I watch that. Like I'm staring at the line do different
It does
things.
have a little bit of that going on with
a little
it.
hypnotic.
It also reminds me of one of the castles in Super Mario World where you snake around on boxes over flames while a Duckman shoots flames at you. Might be a fortress.
Par for the course, yeah.
Yeah, but that snakes around kind of like this line and also can lead you to peril.
Ooh.
Speaking of peril, Skeeter is telling us all a frightening tale with a flashlight in his face about a guy named Baron von Heckelhofer, who probably ate plenty of sauerkraut.
Definitely.
See, Baron von Heckelhofer got really into this one girl, and he wanted to build her a mansion. Took him a couple of decades, but he did it. They got married, they walked in, whoops, no floor, forgot to complete that part of the house. They fell to their deaths, they're dead. So when something like that happens in a house, this isn't a case of where the loved ones go to a funeral and everything is settled. You're going to have ghosts, right? Unless someone got around to doing some necromancy, then you can't have a ghost because the person's alive, right? What happened? Yeah, that is a good question.
What's the thing that you do where you bring over the little lady from Poltergeist? What is she? What is her role? What's that called? It's another horror movie. Exorcism.
Yeah. There's a lot of things you can do with death and souls, but an exorcism's like you got to get a demon out of there.
Right. You did bring up an interesting point, though, which is if you necromancy someone, I don't think you can use it that way, but I did.
Mm-hmm.
If you do that...
We're kind of the foremost experts on it, so I think we can invent the rules a bit.
Could we have the reanimated body interacting with their own ghost, is I believe kind of the territory you were venturing into.
That's what I wanted to do, yes.
And I like that concept.
And I ask you guys if that would not be an entertaining TV show or movie.
Would you even say, are you not entertained when people were watching that?
Are you not entertained?
Yeah, I like that concept a lot.
I feel like that would involve some real perfect timing. You're doing the necromancy, you're trying to resurrect them, but also they need to be a ghost. So you have to consult the ghost hunter or whatever, and then you have to get it just right. So it's a rare occurrence.
Yeah, Jennifer Love Hewitt. Got to get her on board.
Or Patricia Arquette.
Oh, sure.
That's the one.
Medium.
To go into this house where the von Heckelhofers died, that's considered crossing the threshold of death. And no one wants to do that. The house is now called Bloodstone Manor, which is objectively super cool.
It'd be like if the vampires had their own Cold Stone, like if they wanted ice cream and it's called Bloodstone instead.
There's nothing weird about our flavors. This one says... A positive?
I was going to say, wouldn't it all just be blood?
Yeah. I don't want the chocolate. I want blood.
The number 7 says universal donor with Oreo chunks.
Okay.
Okay, I'm
now
on board.
You got my interest piqued.
You know, it'd just be like an Oreo with some metal in it. Big deal.
Delicious. That's how I like my Oreos, full of metal.
Iron Oreo.
Bet you can't smelt just one.
That had more legs than I thought it would.
Skeeter dramatically says, there's now a ride at Bluffington's Funky Town amusement park, and it goes right through Bloodstone Manor. It's the scariest ride ever.
Look, a disco/Halloween themed amusement park is a good idea.
It is.
And it needs to happen.
And that is what Funky Town is, and this is the kind of thing that I'd go, I think, if you guys went. I wouldn't go alone. First off, people would think I was a criminal. I'm 40. I'm not 40, guys.
Close enough.
I'm trying to picture any of the three of us alone at a theme park, like standing there with a corn dog.
That sounds like a challenge now. It's like, I guess I'll have to.
I'll go shove my face in a funnel cake.
Oh, man, I want a funnel cake so bad.
Doug is scared by Skeeter's story, and he gets more scared because Skeeter says, guess what? That ride, it opens tonight, and we're going. Episode title card shows up with the light bulb thing, and we're back in the thick of it. Doug says, I usually love Halloween, and this is all in voiceover. He's probably journaling. But this year, he's too scared because of Bloodstone Manor. He claims he might be safe, though, because inside of his mind lives an infamous adventurer named Race Canyon, who some might better know as Indiana Jones, which is what Race Canyon is. So as a kid, I loved this guy because I was a big Indiana Jones fan. Mm-hmm. And it even has the theme song, essentially. There are a couple of notes moved around.
Yeah, they don't do much to disguise it. It's pretty great.
They even give him like the 5 o'clock shadow, which is just Doug with a 5 o'clock shadow and a hat. In this daydream, Race Canyon, he climbs Bloodstone Manor and whips a couple goblins into into like a bunch of lava. I didn't think we were going to see that in Doug.
I don't remember the Indiana Jones movie where like gargoyles showed up, but I believe it. Maybe it's the new one.
It's the Indiana Jones and the Fellowship of the Ring.
Now, Race Canyon's voice here, he's also voiced by Billy West, who does Doug and several other characters. And it's very clearly the first iteration of what he will then use a few years later for Zap Brannigan, who's a phenomenal character in Futurama, and I love that voice. Gif, I've mated with a woman. Tell the men.
Some of his voices, you hear little pieces of things. Like, I wasn't very familiar with what all he had done, but I obviously actually am.
Yeah.
So, like, he would say things as other characters, not really as Doug, where I would hear something that felt familiar in some other sort of way. Mm-hmm. Kind of cool.
If we hit that bullseye, the rest of the dominoes will fall like a house of cards. Checkmate.
Once these monster things are dead, the whole house, Bloodstone Manor, turns into a green, masked, hooded figure. Doug shows up, though, and he uses his own little dumb whip to kill the house man. I don't think he was needed in this imaginary scenario.
No, I think Race Canyon's got it covered just fine.
Doug's just kind of, extra in that. You have Race Canyon, which is a bigger, stronger Doug in this scenario.
I also like Race Canyon when I don't know if it's the gargoyles or I think it is. When he's approaching the house, he's just such a badass that when he sees these evil monsters who are trying to kill him, he chuckles. He goes like, yeah, when he sees them.
I feel like he's like, this is it? This is all you got? He didn't know the house was going to turn into a man.
I was on Air Force One, damn it.
I'm sick of dealing with all these orcs. Because this is
right
Indiana Jones and the Fellowship of the Ring, yeah. That's Gollum after he gets the Indiana Jones' hat when it comes off.
Oh, okay. Here, I've got it for you. And you can have my axe and my sword and my bow and my whip. This is Indiana Jones.
Yeah. I wonder how big he would look next to all of them. Like a 6-foot-tall guy.
He's a big guy.
I mean, he'd be bigger than Legolas.
Right.
He'd be taller than Gimli. Gimli is built like a circle.
He sure is.
Yeah, Gandalf is 9'3". Just like Ian McKellen in real life.
Yes.
Little known fact, he's Brad Garrett plus 2.5 feet. After this imaginary fake Indiana Jones scenario played out in his mind, Doug slides down the banister because he feels safe. He feels tough now.
But he doesn't slide off to the side like any human would. He like crack in the middle of the banister and goes right down it.
Balls haven't dropped yet.
Fair point.
It'd still be going in your crack, though. That would hurt.
It wouldn't be pleasant no matter what.
I got crack burn.
Splinters, probably. Oh, God. Ugh. Doug, when he gets to the bottom of the stairs, though, there is his sister, his older sister, Judy, who's sort of a beatnik type, like an artsy type, yeah. And she sees that Doug is prancing around and reiterates to him that Bloodstone Manor is scary and that he should not be happy any longer. which is Judy's role often, is to kind of tamp down Doug's positivity a bit.
She's the older sister.
She's the older sister, but she's never really mean either. Also, Roger, he's got a big thing for Judy.
Well, here's the thing. Well, two things right here. First off, Judy's watching television when Doug comes downstairs. And I just have to ask, what the fuck is she watching? Because it's a guy who's dressed like Devo. He's one of the big pyramid or ziggurat hats. And he's just standing on a skateboard, shifting left to right. And it's clearly poorly animated, but it's bizarre to look at. And then number two, I was a young boy coming into my own when I was watching Doug. For some reason, I was smitten with Judy.
Yeah, me
Judy
too.
was my girl.
Not like in a way that I would with some other characters on shows that were humans for real, but like I was always drawn to like these like teen girl characters when I was like 10 or whatever, who were like kind of mean but knew about songs or something.
Okay, yeah.
Like I felt like there was this knowledge that they could give me while also marrying me and or whatever. I don't know.
Sure.
What do you think's going to happen when you're 10? You don't have a plan. It's like pork chop chasing a car, you know?
You just want that whole relationship, that whole friendship. Sorry.
You don't even know what it is. You're like, oh, I want to hold hands at recess or something.
And looking forward in time, like Aubrey Plaza as most of her characters, because she's mean.
Yeah.
I like that.
No, that makes sense.
So it all checks out.
Nothing's changed.
And there was always that like finger snap, artsy, jazzy song
that's
in
what
the
it is.
background.
She has her own little jazz kind of score that plays whenever she enters. You know, and Rogers is kind of the
guitar.
The distorted guitar, yeah. And the Alan Moo, who we don't see, it's bubble noises.
Yeah, no, I still remember that song to this day. They're nerds, guys. They wear Hawaiian shirts.
Judy and Doug, they see a commercial on TV for Funky Town's latest attraction, the one we've been talking about this whole time. It's got that green-faced man from Doug's daydream, which is kind of weird. And he's prattling on and on about how cool the ride is and how there's a portal to hell. And that's how this kind of connects to Turbulence 3.
A little bit.
So this is in Kansas. I guess we don't know where Bluffington is, do we?
No.
Kansas.
And I mean, it could be, right?
Mm-hmm.
This seems Kansan a bit. Seeing this commercial shakes Doug back up because he's a dumb kid. He imagines falling to his death back in that same Race Canyon scenario he was in before. So, alternate ending, kind of an Inglourious Bastards deal.
Sure. In this case, instead of him lassoing the throat of the mountain house, instead the mountain house pushes him off the mountain house's body into a river.
That's more plausible.
Right.
And it happens so fast, like instantly this time in his reimagining of it. The second he sees the house, he's gone. He's dead.
The best part of this to me. That's the joke. It's kind of like before it was this big epic build up, and this time he goes up and just loses.
Race Canyon's fine. He's still there.
Yeah, well, he's going to take care of it. He's a big boy. I wish Race Canyon's dad would show up and it would be Sean Connery.
But with a dumb name.
I named her after the dog. You know, that's true. Indiana Jones was named after the
Lucas's
family dog.
Right, yeah.
Now I just like this idea of Sean Connery being in Doug, but just being Sean Connery.
Roger, my boy.
Listen to me, pork chop.
You found any good pussy? Oh, God. Sean, you can't be on... This is a kid's show.
Listen to me, Douglas. When Patti starts talking back to you, slap her a little. It's fine.
What kind of piece do you carry on you when you're out in public? Just in case something goes awry in one of your missions. Missions?
You're the man now, pork chop. That's what they said the last episode when they switched the boy and the dog.
Dragonheart.
He just says it. The name of the movie loudly.
I was in a movie where I voiced a character before, too, that was just as good as this. It was called Dragonheart. That can't be good, right?
No.
We've talked about it before, and I saw it at a theater, but there's no way that could be good.
No.
Then there's The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Yeah.
Was that him? That was his last movie, right?
You know, he was also maybe in a movie called The Avengers that wasn't that, though.
Yeah.
I think that's what this was. Oh, no, you're right.
No, you're
right.
That's right.
So the remake, well, not the remake, but the TV show from
Yeah.
the 60s. Yeah, they did a movie of it, apparently really bad.
They're like spies or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was in that.
I think I did see it at the time. Don't remember anything about it. At that age, because I got really into James Bond movies as a teenager and watching all the old ones, I had like an elevated opinion of Sean Connery at the time as an actor. And I didn't know anything about the guy. And I also didn't know anything about acting. He's good sometimes. Sometimes, though, he is not.
Well, then The Rock came around and you were totally smitten at that point.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, kind of. in a way. Who's not smitten by all of what's going on in that movie?
Exactly. It's not, yeah, I can't give much of the credit to Sean Connery for The Rock, but all I know is that was a very influential movie for me at that time.
Yeah.
In my 97 or whatever.
Well,
I
here's
love
the
that.
thing. Nicolas Cage is great in that movie.
Oh, yeah.
He is just... Whatever was on the page, it's not whatever that is. And I appreciate that about Nicolas Cage is it's a gamble, and it is never boring. And I don't know if this is just me, but increasingly, I just can't really do with the boring as much. And I just want an actor, if you're in a role like some of these roles he's in, do something.
Yeah, have fun with it.
Yeah, do something with it. He was a scientist that was supposed to be cool and love the Beatles or something. I love that character tick is he loves the Beatles. Yeah.
B-E-E-T.
Good. Yeah, now that would be unique enough to give a character. He's into the Beats, the fake band from Doug, which I am.
To your point about elevating Bond actors, there was a Pierce Brosnan movie came out that I really wanted to see.
The Thomas Crown Affair?
Bingo, that's the one, because it happened after his Bond stuff, and I was like, this is going to be so good, and he's a painting thief, I think.
Yeah, Rene Russo's in it.
Is it was like, I saw some boobs, and I was like, that's fine. That got me through it, but I thought that movie was boring.
That is exactly what my opinion was as a teen. Boring, but
boobs.
Nudity. And I, too, thought the same thing, that Pierce Brosnan was like maybe more than one of the probably middling James Bonds and whatever he was in Remington Steele that we keep bringing up over and over. We have to cover that.
Somehow we haven't yet.
You know what we haven't done yet either? Brought up the Waltons, Spencer. I'm looking at you.
I've learned my lesson.
Tie it in.
Did it too much.
Okay, let's see if it can happen. Doug shows up at Skeeter's house ready to trick or treat, but Skeeter is dressed like some sort of goddamn spaceship.
I just put, what the fuck, Skeeter? That's all I had to put in my notes.
It's a really cool trick, though, that he can do with it, where it comes off, sort of.
Well, it's from
great.
Space Monks, guys.
Yeah, Space Monks is some video game, apparently that has spaceships that explode but then can come back together,
which is a good idea.
It's what this costume does. Skeeter's ready to go to Bloodstone Manor, and of course he is. You would be brave, too, if you were dressed like a spaceship.
And blue.
Doug, by the way, he's dressed like Race Canyon, so he can be brave, but not as cool as a spaceship. Skeeter explains now, and this comes into play, if they're too late getting to Funky Town, the line might be so long that they actually miss getting on the new ride before 10, which is always the time when things end on Doug. It's when Pork Chop needs to be home, and it's when Funky Town closes.
It's his bedtime. He mentions that in the first one.
Doug smiles to himself, and he forces he and Skeeter to go trick-or-treat. It's obvious Skeeter's like, Doug, let's just cut to the chase. Let's go to Funky Town.
Skeeter needs to put his foot down because he just lets Doug walk all over him and say, no, we're trick-or-treating.
And if you're letting Doug walk all over you, come on.
I agree with Doug, though. I don't think going to an amusement park is a Halloween activity. I understand the ride's scary, but I think what Doug is wanting to do just makes a lot more sense.
I think I agree with that. It is Halloween.
Sure.
People trick-or-treat. Now, they're treating trick-or-treating as a kiddie thing.
Right.
We're too old. They're not too old.
No, not at all.
Especially since we know their age. But I do like this sentiment of these are kids on that brink of like, maybe you're too old. Van and I have been through this.
Oh, yeah.
We trick-or-treated when we were too old, mostly just to be contrarian one time.
Do you remember what we dressed up as?
You were Ed McMahon and I was Kurt Cobain.
Yep. And do you remember what someone said we look like?
Adults?
A youth pastor and a hobo, I think it was.
Something like that, yeah. Which you could still say.
Sure.
Two hobos. Or wait, youth pastors kind of have that vibe a little bit now.
Yeah. Like I've got a beard and a guitar and a story to tell.
Fuck it, I'm going to go be a youth pastor.
Long hair, it helps.
As they're trick-or-treating, Skeeter kind of still keeps feeling they're too old to be doing this. I like the visual element of every other trick-or-treater being like at their knees.
That
you see buzzing around. You had to really overemphasize how Skeeter feels. Spencer pointed this out a lot last episode. That the visual we're presented with gives us a lot of insight into the character's feeling. Eventually, one of the doorbells they ring turns out to be Connie, who is a classmate of Doug and Skeeter's, and Doug gets super embarrassed right away, despite thinking trick-or-treating's fine for their age before. Doug and Skeeter lie. They say this candy's actually for Dale. Yum, yum, eat 'em up. Yum, yum, eat 'em up. And the two of them run away to make sure that they get to Bloodstone Manor before it is too late. Doug's trying still, though, to think of ways to stall, when Roger limply kind of comes up behind him and pretends to be headless while talking, which is funny by itself. It scares no one, And then we get the famous Roger Klotz goon squad that we love. They are named Ned Coffey, Willie White, and Boomer Bledsoe. One of them's got a circle mouth, another looks like a gopher man. I don't know which one of them's which exactly.
Yeah, I don't know either. The one has two-pronged head bumps and one big eye and one little eye. It's a bizarre assortment of people.
This is another thing that this show does that is like, why are they doing this? But great.
Yeah, good.
Just
I'm glad you did it.
Little variances to add flavor. And what a flavor it is. Doug, tasty.
Was Roger just waiting for hours in the bushes for Doug to walk by with his head in his jacket?
Yes.
Ugh.
With his friends and making them stand there too.
You gotta stick around, Boomer.
All his friends are smaller too, and I like to believe that the kids Roger's age are actually like, fuck you. And he's got this army of like kids 2 years younger that follow him around and think he's cool. Roger's a good character.
He's his own spinoff show.
Roger and his buddies, they don't buy Doug and Skeeter's costumes. They think they're dumb. They think Doug is too wimpy to be Race Canyon. Can't argue that one, even if I like Doug.
They don't really call out Skeeter being a space monk spaceship too much.
They kind of know. They try, but they quickly zone in on Doug because Skeeter's too cool looking.
Yeah, they're like, you know what? Game recognizes game. Skeeter, you're cool.
Let's get a little sampling for the audience of what this little Roger friend group sounds like, and you might be drawn back to the dulcet tones of Bulk and Skull.
Oh, brother, you? Race Canyon? Ha ha! More like Race Chicken!
Hey, Raj, let's see how brave Race Chicken is.
Yeah, he can be the first one to TP Mr. Bones' house.
Come on, Race. Let's see you in action.
Ooh, that's a lot. That's another one of those soundtracks that lets you know exactly what we're supposed to think of these characters. Fuck!
Hasn't come up in a while.
But see, it fits.
It really does.
Yeah, it's the same kind of thing.
I didn't catch it until you brought it up. But yeah, that's perfect.
So we heard about this TPing, and that's our next twist. The good-hearted Doug is being forced to throw toilet paper at Lamar Bones' modest educator home. I mean, maybe Mr. Bones is annoying, but he does not deserve to have to clean that shit off his house.
Plus, the old man in me is like, oh, you can't waste that roll of toilet paper
I
like
know.
that.
That's my big
You
problem
need to
with
shit
it.
on that.
I mean, it's not even that cheap. So yeah, you
No.
don't want to waste a roll. And I then had a full, just left the episode and went in my own head and was like, eggs too? You shouldn't be throwing eggs at
No,
houses.
you need
should
those.
be eating those.
Well, and there's an egg shortage now, so they're a little pricier.
Eggs and toilet paper, two very valuable resources.
And people waste them trying to play a dumb little prank on Halloween.
And on Mr. Bones' salary, he's going to have to pick it up. I'm going to need to poop on this later.
That was a little bit.
Don Nazi.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, little too Don Knotts.
We do see a car at some point driving down the road where, I'm sorry, a space car, whatever
Yeah,
they're
what
called,
are those?
where one of the kids is in it hooting and hollering, throwing toilet paper rolls out. But
Yeah.
they're not like, you're supposed to wing it so the toilet paper unfurls. They're just flinging full rolls
This
out the
kid
window.
has heard about TPing, but he's never seen it or
Right.
done it.
So that you actually could gather them up and use them then.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
were on the receiving end
Just
of that.
dust them off.
Maybe he's doing it intentionally. He's
Yeah,
like, I don't want to waste
gifting.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's
okay.
like a Santa, toilet paper
Yeah,
Santa.
exactly. It's like the Nightmare Stole Christmas sort of thing where the Jack Skellington conflated Christmas and Halloween, and that's
Mhm.
what's happening here.
Do you think Jack Skellington knows the demon barber of Fleet Street, Sweeney Todd? Yeah, I couldn't think of
Sure.
his name, but I was trying to, you know how we always bring that up? I
Yeah.
was trying to make it happen.
What's that fat ghost from Jack Skellington?
Oh.
The villain.
I don't know.
It's just a fat star of a ghost.
Yeah, it's pretty cool looking.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
I'm pleased that Jack Skellington made his way into this
Sure.
at all.
What's this? What's this? There's something in the air. That's all I know.
They're in the attempt to get Doug to TP Mr. Bones' house, there are some Tommy Wiseau chicken noises that are made at him. So there's another room similarity. But in a move that I really like, Doug just says no. I'm just not going to do that. I don't actually have to do it.
And he treats it like a weakness on his part that he wouldn't do it. And it's the opposite, Doug.
Yep.
You're
Doug, that's
strong.
actually good. But he has to learn that lesson. This decision here, he didn't make this out of cowardice. It's because he knows he shouldn't be doing that shit. Doug and Skeeter then leave to another round of those Tommy Wiseau chicken noises. Oh, what's that? It's the literal bus to Funky Town.
I love that the disco shuttle thing has disco music playing at all times.
You got to keep people hyped, man. Keep them up till 10. Doug confesses finally to Skeeter that he's afraid. This actually hadn't happened yet up until this point in the episode. He couldn't even muster the courage to TP Mr. Bone, let alone go into a death Bloodstone Manor scenario. Right then, Doug's Race Canyon costume hat flies off. Another nice little nod to what happens in Indiana Jones. And Skeeter is disappointed that Doug's not wanting to go on the ride, but he's actually supportive. He's like, I get it, man. I get it.
Skeeter's great.
That's a real Skeeter move. Skeeter's pretty understanding.
Yep.
Mosquito. We don't know him. We can't call him Skeeter.
But if you called him Mosquito, you'd say, nah, Mosquito is my father's name. Just call me Skeeter.
Here's what happened. The Valentine family sat down and they're like, here's our first son, name him Mosquito. Here's our second son.
They did do that, yeah.
Let's name him Dale.
Yeah, that's fucking great.
That's awesome.
Yum, yum, name him up.
Speaking of Funky Town, maybe we should take one on the way to break. I'm totally kidding. I just thought that would be perfect. You don't have to leave that in.
Just leave that.
As it is, that's staying in there.
We're back and greeted by Patti Mayonnaise.
Patti Mayonnaise.
She is in the show because
Ooh.
stuff needs to happen and Van needs to get mad.
Judy's better.
Patty's here with her dad. They pull up in their space car.
Her
dad,
fucking hunk of a dad.
Her dad's super cool and young.
Man.
I was
just
so
like her.
bothered by how young her dad looked.
Yeah.
It's like, that's not fair to do that to me.
Yeah.
Like, dads in cartoons look younger than me by a lot now.
He's kept in shape, too. He's doing great.
I mean, I'm a straight cishet male, but I saw Patti Mayonnaise's dad, and I said, I get it. I understand why these kids are all about the mayonnaises.
Make some mayonnaise of your own.
If you can't even appreciate his daughter, you don't get dibs on the dad. That's not how
Bullshit.
that works.
I don't think this is how anything works, but
It works however we want it to, I guess.
that's true. This is our podcast. Patti invites Doug and Skeeter to go to a costume party at Miss Mimi's. And you would think this would normally be a thing Doug would be all over doing, too. Patti correctly even identifies that Skeeter is that spaceship from Space Monks, which is, Skeeter thinks it's pretty cool that she recognized that.
Of course, Patti would know. She'd pick up on it.
More
She's a
importantly, she picks out that Doug is just Race Canyon without a hat and not a hobo. I think she literally says that, basically. And he loves this to the point where hearts begin to swirl about his head, and we're transported inside Doug's brain, where he imagines himself once again as Race Canyon, and this time he's got Patti with him at Bloodstone Manor. So in his little nightmare, he's decided to drag someone else potentially to hell with him.
Only to protect her from him, though.
Yeah.
Here you come and be in danger so I can save you.
Doug busts down the door, fake Doug, a mind Doug, and all sorts of ghosts and goblins and ghouls and one troll doll come flooding out the front door, and Patti just goes, wow, you let those monsters out. You're a hero. This vision is enough for Doug. It spurs him to ask Patti and her cool dad to take he and Skeeter to Bloodstone Manor. I'm brave now. Will you go out of your way to drop us somewhere? We're not going to your party.
Yeah, sure, whatever. I guess I'll take my kid's friends somewhere else. Who knows? Maybe it's across town. They don't know.
Well, this is Patty's dad, so he's like,
He's super
yeah,
cool.
get in, man. I don't care.
He's like, you guys want to share a J?
Doug's a man now. Skeeter's very pleased by this news, and we head to Funky Town, where Patti gushes with surprise that Doug and Skeeter are going to actually go to the Bloodstone Manor section of the park. Meanwhile, Patty's dad pulls up to the disco-themed park, kind of also surprised at the news that these kids are going to ride the scariest attraction in the park. Patti says she's really shocked by this because of what happened to those two guys. Doug didn't know about any of this, and he asked for more information from Patty's cool dad.
Yeah, they say when they were testing it, 2 workers rode in, but the only thing that came out were their shoes.
Daddy, stop! Well, you can't believe everything you... Who told you this? Skeeter?
I love that Skeeter has been proliferating this rumor all along and has not mentioned it to Doug, obviously. This also brings back something we've talked about on the podcast before, which is kid urban legends. This is totally one of those. Like, I heard that these guys that worked on Bloodstone Manor got sucked into the vortex of hell.
And only their shoes remained.
And Richard Gere has a gerbil in his ass.
What was the one we discussed previously?
Marilyn Manson filleted himself.
Yeah.
Wow, we should have talked more about that in Turbulence 3.
Boy, we should have.
More relevant there. Do you think Slade Craven ever did that?
I think he thought about it. No, I don't even think he did that. He's too good. He's too pure.
Well, he might have been curious about it and just not been able to do it because of all the metal appliances stuck to him.
Do you think before seducing whoever he wants to seduce, he says, let's do the hustle?
Probably.
If he doesn't, that's a really missed opportunity.
Sure. And then he does the dance, like at Funky Town.
I just hope when they're done, nobody puke cards. Patti and her dad leave now. They're going to go to Mimi's party. They're not going to deal with this ride. And Doug, he passes up this Patti party. He really has to prove himself. Funky Town, the song is playing at Funky Town also, or some close approximation of it. It may be public domain. I don't know. Skeeter tells Doug, that stuff the mayonnaises said back there. None of it's real. That's all just rumors. Same with the thing about the maniac. Which I liked that too. Which Doug's like, what? Nobody told me about a maniac. But yeah, okay. There's this thing where a guy did buy Bloodstone Manor and got trapped in there and he's still in there.
Did you know that song Maniac, that 80s one from Flashdance or whatever? That was originally written about a serial killer, and then some executive was like, you can't do that. So they made it about a dancer.
He's dancing like he's never danced before.
And killing like he never killed before. I don't know if those are lyrics. But you can, if you listen to the song, you can see how it was originally presented as that framework.
I'm not surprised. The melody in that is rather ominous.
Right.
Despite the up-tempo beat and the fact that it's infectious, I mean, it's got a feel that makes you a little unsettled when you listen to that song. I'm not surprised.
You know who has a terrific song called Psycho Killer that's about that?
The Talking Heads.
There we go. All back to David Byrne and his big-ass suits.
That's right.
Which we talked about last week.
Qu'est-ce que c'est?
Huh?
Also, bumpa bumpa, bumpa bumpa.
Doug is understandably surprised by the new intel about what might have gone down here and if there are ghost men trapped inside this manor or not. They pull up to the line. By pull up, I mean they walk up. They're not in a space car anymore. And they've got an hour and a half or so. They're hoping they can get in, but the line is huge. Fast forward to 9:45, only 15 minutes till close, and until Porkchop needs to be home from any date he might concurrently be on. Doug and Skeeter finally get to the front of the line, but Roger cuts right in front of him. It doesn't matter, though, because the butler, I guess, that works inside the ride, he pops out and says, we're closing this, fuck off, I'd like to go home to my family, this is just a job, I'm probably underpaid here in Bluffington. A lot of that he doesn't say, it's implied. But he does say you guys can go buy something from the gift shop, but you can't ride this ride. Every other kid in the line walks off, thinking that, it'd probably be dangerous to try to ride an amusement park ride when it's not open. But the doors to the manor are open. Roger argues, we've got 15 minutes before the park closes. They were trying to close early. We can still go in. And everyone agrees. That legal loophole is what gets Roger to make everyone agree.
Well, and Doug initially says, but they're closed. And I just remember thinking, you fucking square. Go in the damn amusement park. Who gives a shit?
The big downside would be the mechanical safety of the Bluffington Fair or whatever this is. I mean,
so you're taking Doug's side a lot. You're like, no, they shouldn't go in there.
This won't surprise Van at all. I was like, yeah, Doug's right about this.
Let's go home and sit quietly.
You try again tomorrow night, right? Or maybe it's a one-night thing, though. If it's a one-night thing, maybe you do go in.
I don't know the rules of Funky Town and their hours.
How good at operating cranes and stuff is Skeeter? Do we know?
I bet pretty good. I mean, he's smart. We know that. He's
good
talented. He's nice.
Battle chess, whatever. Barnyard chess.
Battle chess? That sounds awesome.
It does.
He's also dressed as a spaceship, which is probably some qualifier,
yeah,
I think.
I think to put that thing on, you'd have to have some mechanical skill.
Yeah, some know-how.
You know what? I just realized his normal outfit is this orange and red hot dog costume thing, where he has the lightning bolt on the front, right?
Yeah.
The spaceship costume has the lightning bolt on the front as well. Does that mean in his everyday wear, the lightning bolt shirt, that is a Space Monk shirt?
Well, now this opens up.
Or did he add his own design to the costume?
We need to get to the bottom of this, because that is fascinating. Maybe Skeeter's a big Space Monks fan, well, he is, but the shirt is part of that. And same with the pizza delivery
I like
girl.
that story.
And it is a video game. It's not a TV show.
No.
He says video game.
This show has new media.
I bet they have one.
Because it's 1991 or whatever.
I bet they have an episode about Space Monks. They must.
I bet we see it at least. All the kids, They enter Bloodstone Manor, and they're a little apprehensive because of all the stories. And they continue to be because they're immediately confronted by the green-faced demon man. And he says there's only one way out for trespassers. It's down, right through the barbed moon door below. The walls push them toward that pit. Oh, but there is a floor. It's actually just clear and covering the chasm underneath.
That was pretty clever.
It is very clever. I would have been scared shitless.
If you've ever actually seen one of these like optical illusion carpet things, they look real. Like they have the checkerboard pattern tube going down. It's creepy to see up close. So I kind of get that they bought it. And also they're dumb kids. So
Yeah,
of course
Well,
they
and
they're
Doug
already-
didn't even mean to step on it, too.
Right.
It's not like he was being brave. He was too clumsy not to. And then he was like, oh, this shit's not real. You can just step right on that.
I like the touch that Roger remains kind of afraid, even when they're standing on it. He's the only one visibly about to piss his pants still. The demon man, the hooded man, he says, he's not done, by the way. He's got more to say. He says, there's no turning back. You've crossed the threshold of death. Let's go to the dining room.
let's have a nice meal together.
Yeah. There's a cool knight armor in the corner here.
That'd be pretty cool to have.
Thanks to video games, I'm frightened of those because you're always like,
They come to
it's just
life.
armor, but then it's going to chop me.
So you wouldn't want one right behind you as you work on the podcast?
Here's the thing: I don't like a lot of things.
I know
behind
you
me,
don't. I was setting that up.
so I can't get behind that.
I'd like it, though, because you could look back and be like, yeah, was it 6 inches closer
Yeah.
to me this time?
That move?
You'd think that until all of a sudden you're mid-duel with it because it challenged you from behind.
It's so chivalrous.
In the dining room, this green demon man, he gives them all salads, but they're actually just little turds that yell.
That is what a salad is.
I love it when my brown salad chunks scream at me.
Maybe they're rotting beets or something. All three of them, Doug, Skeeter, and Roger, get strapped into their dinner chairs and then descend through like a series of tubes until they wind up on a casket roller coaster, which I've been playing a lot of Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze lately, and this reminded me of those mine carts.
Yeah, great levels.
Very difficult, some of those.
Pretty clear someone invested some major cash into this theme park.
Yeah, they did. Probably the Bluffs, right?
Sure.
BB's family.
Well, and they have an actual monster, right? That's in this ride or whatever. That's, I guess, the host of the ride.
Oh, the
This,
green
this
goblin
thing's
guy.
real.
Yeah.
He's talking to him and existing. So that seems to be a pretty good start for the ride when they were building the whole idea. It's like, well, we've got this. With
Yeah.
this giant green monster guy.
I have to imagine he commands a pretty hefty salary from amusement parks. Like, I don't know if he's exclusive to only Funky Town or if he travels.
Well, I think his spirit is tethered to Funky Town. So I think he's kind of like
You're
forced
right, it
into
has to be. It's actually to that exact spot.
And he lives there, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Because like even though the place closes at 10 or whatever, he was just settling in for the night
So
when they interrupted.
they must have paid him a hefty fee to arrange all of this. Like, they happened upon it, and they were like, okay, if we can get him to agree to this, we're going to make money hand over a spectral foot.
Or they bought the mansion or whatever this was. They found out he was haunting it, and then they found his urn or whatever. So they have the power, the control over him.
Like Paul Bearer.
So yes, so they have forced him to do their bidding, and it's like a slavery kind of thing. But maybe they do pay him. But it's like pittance. Like he's got minimum wage.
I don't know. I like my scenario better, just because I like to imagine that this demon is doing okay for himself.
You like that he's in charge and in control,
Well, he knows his way around.
right?
He set up all the booby traps.
Sure, he forgets to install a floor every now and then, but we all do that.
happens.
During the kind of minecart ride that they're on in this casket coffin thing, Doug and Skeeter, they're laughing. They're having fun with this, while Roger is terrified. Oh, all of a sudden, though, the ride comes to a halt. The overhead lights kick on. It's 10 o'clock. The park is closed, so all the mechanical stuff shut down. They'd better be happy this is where they're at. This is what I'm saying. You got to be careful if you're breaking into a ride. You're not supposed to be there, man. Skeeter spots a stairwell nearby, which is usually not, like if you see that, don't go down there at night. But Skeeter decides, I'll go down there and look for help. So he and Doug leave while Roger stays behind, too afraid to stand up even. Or so we think. We'll see. Down in the stairwell, Skeeter finds a phone and he starts carelessly just slamming buttons around when it doesn't work right away, like you're supposed to do with stuff.
Like an old person might if they found
Yeah.
a new piece of technology they didn't understand.
It actually kind of, to harken back to Turbulence 3 again, it reminded me of Rutger Hauer just beating the shit out of the controls of the plane. Only he was doing it on purpose.
And Skeeter wasn't thinking about Nom.
No, he's never been there. Well, I don't think.
The memories, Doug.
No, shoot him up. Something Skeeter did worked because the ride starts back up and then the demon appears and he says, "Whoa, you made it, but next time you won't be so lucky." He's still trying to scare him,
Because I think he's bored.
Again, he's been at this for eternity.
And he sleeps like Herman Munster, vertically in a coffin.
When the ride starts back up, the roller casket arrives in front of Doug and Skeeter, but Roger's, clog shoes are the only thing left inside of it. And
Shit.
I know, they can hear Roger crying for help, from a distance, and fairly enough, they debate just leaving, because Roger, he's kind of a jerk sometimes.
Yeah, get what he deserves here.
Ultimately, though, Doug and Skeeter are good guys, and they're like, well, we gotta help him out, because he's not actually that bad, and his insults are pretty tame, and his friends are 2 years younger than him.
And he has a tough home life. And,
Bacon for hair.
Can really pull off a leather jacket.
We see the area where the ride got stuck before. Doug and Skeeter get back out into this area by passing through an actual moon door. It's a moon with a door in it. They leap down and they wonder if Roger fell into a decorative grave. All this is decorated like a haunted house, kind of. Doug figures, well, it's covered like the one earlier, right? That's what happens. No, he falls down into the grave and drags Skeeter, who tries to help him, all the way down with him. And they fall into some sort of control room lab area for this amusement park.
Why are there limbs there? There are just piles of arms and legs.
I guess because people fell apart and broke like glass when the other people before them fell into it.
But then the head and the feet, I don't know, were more useful, so they got carried away, but just the arms remain.
Yeah, that was I don't know why that happened. And I was a little confused. I didn't go back and watch it, but when Doug pulls Skeeter down, didn't part of him come off? Doesn't he pull his arm and it comes off?
It was a limb, because Skeeter grabs a hold of a tree.
Oh, okay.
And then the limb breaks and
I
they
thought he
fall through.
pulled Skeeter's arm off.
God, I wish. The rest of the episode, Skeeter's just bleeding profusely and
well, I thought maybe
cauterize the wound, Doug.
I thought maybe Skeeter could regrow it or something. I wasn't sure. I was first of all, I don't even know if they're humans or anything. So I was well, he looks like he's fine. So if that's what happened, it seems like it's okay.
I get it. When a guy's blue already, there's a lot of stuff you don't know about him. He might have regenerative limbs.
He's like a chameleon that loses its tail.
Skeeter kind of plays with a skeleton. Doug opens a mummy's tomb, and he finds it's that demon guy, the big green guy. He's hanging out in there, and he's kind of annoyed. He reaches out and grabs Doug, and he's like, "This is my home. What are you doing here? Get out. Roger's not even here." He doesn't say Roger. He's like, "Your friend you're looking for, he's not here." But Doug can still hear Roger in the distance, and he knows something is wrong. He looks at himself in a mirror, and he says, "I am not the balking chicken that sits before me in this mirror. I am the Race Canyon version of Doug." And he does one of his little pep talks. He doesn't have Patti here to do it this time.
That was dangerously close to I am the Razor. And he said, I am the Race Canyon.
Newly reaffirmed in his Dougness, Doug goes right back up to the demon man, full of grit, and says,
Excuse me, sir. We're not leaving without Roger.
This way.
You can see Doug went in fucking guns blazing like a total fucking hard ass.
Excuse me, sir.
And this demon had no choice but to say, "Okay, man. Whew.
This is already me time. Let's just got to get these fucking kids out of here so I can watch MASH.
He's given up at this point. He's like, fine, I'll show you the security footage or whatever he's got here.
So you guys don't think it's because Doug's really tough? Okay.
No, not really.
Well, anyway, the demon is very cool with all this, and he takes Doug and Skeeter down to his security layer. You might want to just show that off. He's got cameras set up for the whole park. He's got a lot of jobs. This is a man who wears many hats and one hood.
He's a real goblin of all trades.
Yeah. They can see Roger on the camera, and he's outside now. He's not even in the park, and he's with his friends. They're waiting with a shitload of eggs and toilet paper, and they want to hit Doug and Skeeter with all that and waste all of those respectable adult supplies. They're up there waiting for Doug and Skeeter to exit the park. Doug and Skeeter now know this, though. Bloodstone then replays footage. I'm now calling the demon Bloodstone.
I like that, though. I think that's perfect.
That's great.
Sure, what the fuck. Bloodstone replays the footage from earlier like it's a baseball game. When Roger stayed behind when Doug and Skeeter went to get help, well, guess what? He left his boots in the coffin cart intentionally so Doug and Skeeter would be scared. What manipulative behavior?
So was he ever actually scared?
I took it as no. The whole thing was an act.
Okay. So I think he was scared up until a point, and only because of how they make the character look, illustration-wise, and when they got stalled there and he was scared, he felt jealous and shitty that he couldn't even stand up. Like, he was like, oh, I'm too scared. And then he did calm down with them gone, and he's like, fuck this, I don't want them to think I'm scared. I'm going to turn this into a prank on them.
Yeah, I think he's an opportunist, so I agree. I think he was scared at first, came to his senses, and then realized, hey, I've got an awesome opportunity here to be a dick to Doug and Skeeter. I'm going to take it.
And surely there's not a hooded real green demon in this place that works here.
Said that out loud.
I actually hope that would be more the way it went. I liked when they showed Roger as being, it's an act. He's not really tough or anything like that. So for it to end up being like, oh, he's just playing a prank because he's such an asshole and he wasn't actually scared, it was like, I think I wanted him to be vulnerable. So I would rather your version.
My main reasoning is, again, he's like, they have the sweat lines coming off him when the ride's going into that part and everything.
He's shaky, the eyebrows are back.
Could just be a really good actor. It's possible.
Doug is actually angry about this. Skeeter and Doug went to all this trouble to save their normal adversary, and it was all a ruse. But guess what? Bloodstone's got a revenge plan. Of many, I would imagine. I think this is probably one of the things he sits around and contemplates all day.
He's got the time.
He's like, you know what? He's invested now. I've helped these kids here. I've seen how big of a dick their friend is. Fuck it. Let's ruin this kid's day.
I do feed off fear. I love fear. This is kind of fallen into my lap, an opportunity to scare the bacon-haired one.
Actually, one of my, if not my favorite part of this episode is how Bloodstone, as we're calling him now, becomes like a bigger and bigger character.
Yeah.
Until the end when he's just one of them. It's pretty great.
I wish he moved into Bluffington, was just like a neighbor, like, hey, taking out the trash, still green-faced, hood up.
What a great idea that would have been.
Does anyone have any need for soup made of fear?
Yeah, he's Dr. Vink. Another thing I like is when we flash to Roger and his friends outside waiting, they're all shivering and complaining because it's too cold.
But they're committed to ruining Doug's day. They're like, fuck it, I can power through this.
All of a sudden, booming ghost voices come from the sky, and it's Ghost Doug and Ghost Skeeter. They're threatening to haunt Roger and his friends for what they've done. And that, you'd have to hear haunt honks from Skeeter for years to come if that happened. Bloodstone then gleefully directs all this. We cut to him with his camera. Like, he's setting this all up. He's a real Scorsese, kind of making the visual effects happen to scare Roger. This is his true passion, I think, scaring.
What else do you think he does with that camera?
I'd imagine he has a YouTube channel.
Hey guys, smash that like and subscribe button. Boo.
He makes TikToks of his, like, when he messes up at work.
See, now you guys are making me want to get on TikTok now that you talked about Bloodstone being on there. I never had any temptation. Well, apart from Bootu Boys being on it, which you should check out.
Guys, I think Bloodstone's becoming a thing. Like, I think he's becoming
I'm worried he's going to get in the Hall of Fame soon because I think he's growing on me in a way I didn't think he would.
I mean, we're talking about this Roger Klotz spinoff. We need a Bloodstone spinoff.
Okay.
He's just so nuanced.
Let's
and
make it happen.
Maybe evil.
There's depth there, Brian.
Yeah,
Lots
I know.
of depth. It's not just evil. He's got something else going on.
And he's spooky.
Bloodstone, in fact, his little directorial scheme here gets Roger to admit he and all his friends are chicken, and we will do whatever Ghost Doug and Skeeter say. It doesn't matter. And what Doug says is, it's mean to TP people's houses. And Roger says, well, next time I'll clean them up. I'll make it better. Bloodstone then closes out this whole exchange with his classic catchphrase, next time you may not be so lucky. He loves to say that. And that's another thing about Bloodstone is, like, he knows when to kind of turn on the charisma. So he's been behind the camera up until this point doing all the kind of maneuvering. He gets his moment and he delivers this line with plenty of syrup on it. So great job.
But he also knows that going at a 10 out of 10 constantly, that doesn't work. Sometimes you got to ease into it and then give him the pow.
His voice, it has more of an impact after Doug and Skeeter's ghost voices, too, because Bloodstone's had, again, eons to perfect how evil he sounds. Doug and Skeeter are just winging it. They're trying it on like a costume. Fucking tourists.
I do think it's great that overall, Doug and Skeeter just have simply met a new malevolent friend.
Just goes to show you, sometimes the malevolent can be benevolent.
You know that General Grievous's flagship is called the Malevolence? I think
course
I've
it
said that
is.
on this fucking podcast.
I hope
before,
you
too.
have. We need to get a count going on that. I loved the part where when they start to put together this plan, you see Doug and Skeeter walking in town and Bloodstone just with them. Three of them are just walking around like it's nothing.
Doing a walk and talk. Hey, do you think if I were to project your spirit from this angle, it would be scarier?
You don't really feel like it's something that the show was trying to make a big deal. Like you just cut and it's happened.
Yeah.
And that's my favorite part
Yeah.
about it.
Maybe later you guys will invite me to play beatball.
Oh, I forgot it's already after 10, but maybe tomorrow night after school?
You guys like Space Monks, the video game?
Oh, man, I love it. After this whole thing is wrapped up, Doug and Skeeter thank Bloodstone. They all kind of do one of those like pull-in hugs, pat the back a couple times. They don't. I wish they did so bad.
Or at least the hand in the center,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
go team, that
Yeah.
sort of thing.
The Captain Planet. You know what else Bloodstone has, aside from an open heart and probably a grudge, is Doug's lost hat from earlier, the Race Canyon hat. Doug's confused at how he has this and who he is. Bloodstone has no answers, though. He has merely more cackles, and he says, wait, no, I do have an answer. You can call me Baron von Heckelhofer.
From the beginning.
Yeah. And then he spirals into the sky as a black tornado.
Pretty cool exit.
Tornadoing off like a Tasmanian devil / angel at the same time. Good move.
Amazing. Bloodstone, great job. I think that's what we're going to call him, not his
Not
real name,
Baron
Baron,
von whatever.
which is cool, but
That's cool
Bloodstone's
too,
better.
yeah. We call him Bloodstone Baron.
I like that.
When we have a little more time, Bloodstone for short.
Sure.
When we have more time. Yeah, when we're not just rapid fire, shooting the shit about B-Stone.
And we can sit down for 6 hours and talk about Bloodstone.
With Bloodstone disappeared into the sky, perhaps to a realm that Doug and Skeeter can not yet fathom, perhaps may never be in touch with, they decide it's a good time to just go home. It's late. Doug gives us a voiceover about how he did a good job by Race Canyon by braving that ride and then going back to save Roger from nothing. Doug and Skeeter, then they run home under a full moon because they're a little scared still because they don't really know what to make of this Bloodstone thing. It's like when a friend reveals a side of themselves he didn't understand before.
It's also a super nice touch that after Doug having forced himself to be so brave through the whole night is still just a little bit more scared than
Yeah.
he want to admit. Like he hasn't conquered all of his fears by any means.
And that Skeeter is too, and he's never really let on, but he's a little scared. But that's it. We get the credits. That's the end of this episode. And the end of us talking about Doug, which frankly, I could talk about Doug a lot more.
Yeah.
Doug's great.
I could actually, we say this about some of the shows that we haven't seen much of ourselves, but I could legitimately watch Doug just alone. I could just by myself sit there and binge watch some Doug.
And I did. I watched a couple more, and it's fun. It's genuinely a fun, positive show, and I'm the ultimate pessimist.
Yeah.
So typically I don't gravitate towards that, but I don't know. I loved it.
Well, it's not syrupy with their
True.
optimism. They do it well. They have like little shades of relatable problems that Doug might be going through, and actually all of these. So it's uplifting, but not so much so that everything's perfect. Like I said, Doug didn't really overcome his fear permanently. He's still going to have the same problems. He's still going to be
Yeah.
afraid of things. It's not to the point where you're kind of like, that's cringeworthy,
Or
how
corny.
happy it all worked out. But it does have overall an uplifting vibe, that's a really delicate balance to strike. And the show just does an incredible job. And that is not even getting into the other things that we talked about it does, which is the art and
The music, which is great.
of course, yeah, all of the other stuff, which we didn't even get some of that stuff there. So there's even more to the show than we were able to get to, honestly.
The thing that you alluded to, Spencer, or you were talking about, is how the show doesn't go too far in being too sappy or too obvious. And I think too many coming of age or kid shows just don't even think about trying to do this, but they don't have Doug overcome his fears. They have him kind of understand fear better.
Right.
Which is really,
that's a good way to put it.
That's what growing up is just understanding stuff more because you're not a dumb kid as much.
Right.
And Doug does that really well, and it stays rooted in reality in those ways while getting its fantastical elements out in the imagination segments.
Also a great point though about how it does that so well as shows or movies that don't. What is that message like? oh, growing up was tough, but then I had this epiphany and the rest of life was fucking great. That's how everyone is, right?
I think that's how mentally stable people are.
You just learn a lesson and then things were good then.
Yeah, because like you'll talk to people who, if you have depression or anxiety or whatever it may be, they'll be like, well, just don't have that. And I think that's how life goes for those people. Oh, I learned a lesson, therefore I'm good. And that's foreign as hell to me.
And then sometimes they have gaps by not believing they need to work on themselves to the point where maybe they don't understand that people have mental health problems naturally.
And I would say if that is something that people could say, well, that's believable. I had that sort of thing happen to me. I don't want that in my TV shows. So I like how Doug does it.
It's great. Doug, yeah, I have nothing but affection for it. That has been reaffirmed by watching it again. I'm very glad we got to do this. We'll probably do other Nicktoons in the future. It has been a true pleasure talking Doug, but we have to talk another show, and this is really fun.
We haven't done this in so long.
Yeah,
I guess Doug.
It feels good to be back a little bit in the swing of things, So it's time for me to throw it over.
Pass the baton. The BT baton.
To Spencer. Actually, before I do that, you know what? I'm going to get all this stuff out of the way. Go to bootuinc.com. Go see Bootu Inc. on YouTube. We got all sorts of stuff on there. The Star Wars podcast Van and I do. It's up there too, Podcast A Star Wars Story. He's been uploading those diligently.
California Dreams is up now, so our first couple of episodes, I'll be working through the back catalog.
Yep.
Takes a long time, but we're getting there.
It does. Go visit the band Red Dress on Bandcamp. They have Doug songs up there, at least one. Probably just one, maybe more. Maybe I'm recording this before I know that information.
Also, patreon.com/Bootu Inc. If you
Yes.
like us, give us some money.
Do it.
Be great.
Bonus episodes are available there. It's free if you want, but, throw us a buck and throw us a review on Apple Podcasts, and we'll get a tattoo of Bloodstone at the drop of a hat.
Van will get a tattoo of Patti Mayonnaise. Give us a 5-star review.
I'll get a picture of her dad.
A picture of her dad. You won't get a tattoo.
No, it's stapled to my skin.
Yeah.
Also, don't just throw us a bone, throw us a Vice Principal Lamar bone. Huh?
Woo!
Funny.
Man, you know what kind of joke that was? Butt savage. Well, the business is in the front. That was that. The party's in the back. And that's me giving it back to Spencer so he can tell us what show we're going to talk about.
Here we did one. You guys knew it and loved it. I knew of it and figured I would love it. We're going to do a little bit of a different thing here. We're going to do a show we all know but hate.
Oh.
Yeah, well,
we've already done King of
hate's
Queens.
a strong word. Hate's a strong word, but we don't get it, and everyone else
Is
does.
this after MASH?
Oh yeah, no, this is pretty recent. And
Is it a comedy? Let me ask that.
Well, I'm just gonna tell you.
Okay.
I don't want to make the game go on too long here. So you know how we talked about sitcoms? Like you were saying, maybe it's not that syrupy. Some people just get it, and then they move on their lives good.
Sure.
So if someone's life's not going so well, they might find themselves lamenting. No one told me life was going to be this way.
Oh my God.
I can't believe
wait. All right.
Yeah, so
Gross.
that was my big reveal.
Oh, I am blown back. My hair. You should see me now. My hair is backwards. You know how that
Like
happens?
Roger.
My eyeballs are inside of my head.
Mhm.
My tongue rolled out and went, "Boo."
You know what it did? It unfurled.
I love unfurling.
It's a good word.
So it's time to take the plunge and do Friends.
All right, tell us our episodes here.
Okay.
I want to hear what Chandler's up to.
Well, as far as I can tell, the entire crux of the show is that
They're friends.
yeah, and they all get together at the end. Ross and Rachel and that's David Schwimmer and Jennifer Aniston. They get together, and then Chandler and Monica, they get together, and then there's that guy named Joey, I think. But
Matthew LeBlanc.
Yeah, 4 of the 5 end up marrying each other at the end of the show. So as far as I can tell, most of the show is about the will they, won't they aspects of Ross and Rachel.
There's a monkey in it.
I hope we have a monkey episode.
So I picked 2 episodes that
Both
we
have
kind of
the
get there might be a monkey. We get the origin story of both of how those relationships started.
That's a good idea. Because that'll give us a deep appreciation for the characters, I think, and turn us around our preconceived notions of what Friends is.
Yeah, when we're done with these, we're both going to be like, I misunderstood Friends. It's wonderful. It's just as good as the general public says it is.
Absolutely. You know what? Even better than Seinfeld. Let's all go meet up at Central Perk and have what would be a drink in the 90s that was trendy? Would just cappuccino be
toddy.
trendy?
That's good enough.
A hot toddy.
Did you know, by the way, Willie Tanner That actor is in Friends.
No.
He plays the owner of that Central Perk place
Oh shit!
for a couple of seasons.
That's a real play. I
Well,
thought you were joking when
Max,
you said Central Perk. That's
Max
real. Wow.
Rebo.
No, I wish.
What's the
Max von Sydow. No.
Max Wright.
Max Wright. That's it. Either Max Van Sydow or Max Rebo.
Either one.
Wow.
Either one. You enter that coffee shop and you're like, well, this is different than all the other New York coffee places.
Oh, shit. Droopy McCool's here, too.
What if Bloodstone had a coffee shop in Friends?
I'd shop there. Oh, you can get his blood,
This
but
coffee's too hot. There's fire in it.
So the first one we're doing is season 2, episode 7. The show went on, I think, for 9 seasons. I tried to pick early episodes so I don't have to explain too much of what's happening but when we're not watching. I don't want to have to get too much into the overarching story behind all of it. So
I think in the really plotty shows, that's good because 49 different huge things will happen.
yeah, and I don't want
over-
to have to talk about that.
Yeah.
So I kept it pretty early. But season 2, episode 7 is our first one. Ross and Julie announce they are getting a cat together while Rachel gets drunk on a date and all she talks about is Ross. She decides to get closure by calling him and telling his machine she is over him.
Doesn't say what kind of machine.
a RoboCop.
Autobot. Wait.
Roll out.
Spencer, you said cat.
Uh-huh.
Not monkey.
Huh.
No, there's a monkey later, I'm sure. So meanwhile, Chandler regrets asking Monica to help him lose weight is the B plot in that one.
Chandler needs to lose
Yeah,
weight.
because Chandler's such a fucking fat ass.
You
That
know
guy
what?
who's coked out of his mind
Is
every
it
moment.
Matthew Perry?
Yeah, that's it.
You know what I bet he says to his weight? Get lost. You know how he's supposed to be?
Snarky.
Yeah.
I should probably mention, and for anyone who doesn't know, and I'm sure everyone does, is that Monica is Courtney Cox. I haven't gotten into that.
Who marries David Arquette, whose sister I brought
I'm
up
getting
earlier in the
confused
show.
now. Second one, we jump all the way to season 5, episode 14. I forgot to put the names of these. Okay,
They're always like the one with the hot dog.
The first one is the one where Ross finds out, and this next
It's like
one is-
everything about
You're already going on a rant. We haven't even started the show yet.
the episode titling convention is Seinfeld but dumber.
We'll be saying that a lot when we do these, I'm guessing. The second one is the one where everyone finds out, I believe, is the season 5, episode 14 one.
That's ominous.
Yeah. Ross must prove to his boss that he is sane in order to return to work.
What? Wait, what?
I don't
Okay,
know.
we'll find
I
out.
assume he
We'll
doesn't
find out.
return to work.
Phoebe finds out about Monica and Chandler's relationship. That's the big one. And Ross hunts for a new apartment.
I'm
I'm guessing he doesn't get it because isn't the whole nature of the show that they all live in the same building?
I think so.
So-
or at least that's what I think it is.
They
Yeah.
have that one giant apartment that Monica and Rachel live in, and then
Oh.
across the hall,
Right.
the dumb one and
You
the
know,
mean
the
one
way it
live.
always is.
I don't know where Ross is.
And we'll find out.
But then there's a running gag about how they look out the windows and they see a naked man.
Midian.
I wish you were coming up with so many good ideas that are better than what Friends is. Max Rebo's there. Midian's there.
The cast is immediately more diverse.
Certainly.
Well, we're going to have a good time with this coming up these next couple
I think
weeks.
we are. I'm seriously pumped about this,
Yeah.
even though I think you'll find out what I think.
I think we already know, but let's go ahead and dive into it the next couple weeks anyway.
Today, I hosted a podcast with my friends called Bootu Boys, and I was a little apprehensive about it at first. I was covering a show from my childhood called Doug, but you know what? I just went for it. I just started talking, and the words came out of my mouth like they always do, and I think we did a real good job. And you know what? I've got the confidence to cover Friends now.